ESPN Sports Radio 1300, welcoming you to the Lexington Legends Inside Scoop, keeping you updated on the news and happenings of your Lexington Legends. We'll talk to the players, coaches, and personalities that make the Lexington Legends one of the premier minor league teams in the country. This is the Lexington Legends Inside Scoop. And now, the man who calls the action, play-by-play voice of the Lexington Legends, Keith Elkins.
Let's play ball!
Tal Smith is with us on Legends Inside Scoop. He has a career spanning more than 50 years in Major League Baseball now as an executive and a consultant, and much of that time with Legends' former parent club, the Houston Astros. And first of all, Tal, welcome. It's very good to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Keith. Nice to hear from you. I've missed the association.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know you've stayed busy in your time in baseball since you and the Houston Astros parted ways last year. Of course, a lot of changes were made with the new ownership, including at the top level of management, and you're back in the consulting business, and I know you've been staying busy with a lot of projects, including the one in Sugar Land, Texas, near Houston, where the new Atlantic League club opened up a new ballpark. But tell us a little bit about what's keeping you busy in baseball these days.
Well, it's been a lot of fun working with the Atlantic League. As your listeners may know, it's a minor league, much like the South Atlantic League and others, except in this case, the teams do not have an affiliation with a parent club. They don't work with the Astros or Kansas City or anybody else. The players, for the most part, are older players who have had AA, AAA, and in a lot of cases, some major league experience. And these are players that have become free agents either by virtue of their length of service or so on, and they're looking for exposure and an opportunity to resurrect or reclaim their careers and hopefully get back to the major leagues. As an example, last year toward the end of the season, we had Tim Redding, a long time major league performer, an Astro signee initially. Tim Redding, Scott Kazmir, who was an outstanding pitcher for the Tampa Bay club, and later on the Angels, and obviously Roger Clemens made a couple of appearances here, and Jason Lane, who was making a comeback in a different kind of role.
You had a role with Opening Day Partners, the company that owns the Sugar Land Skeeters and some other clubs as well, and as a consultant. And whether the team is affiliated or not, professional baseball is going to face a lot of the same business issues that we would face here in Lexington or other minor league franchises. Tell me about your role there and advising them on some baseball business operations.
Yeah, basically, Peter Kirk is the principal owner of Opening Day Partners, and I've known Peter for some 30 years. He used to operate clubs in the Baltimore Orioles system. At one time, he had ownership of their A, AA, and AAA affiliates, and several years ago, he embarked on this course of independent league baseball. It's a little bit different because the emphasis can be completely on winning without regard to player development. There isn't anything such as pitch counts or a player staying in there to get his innings or at bats. The emphasis is all on winning, and it's a different kind of concept. Obviously, the business aspect, the promotions and the marketing are very much like goes on with Lexington and other teams in the South Atlantic League. So the business part of it's the same. The player personnel part's a lot different. And Peter asked me to come on board as a consultant, as I had done for him years ago, and to help with the expansion. Sugar Land is the only club in the Atlantic League that's not located in the Northeast or Mid-Atlantic region. All the other clubs are located in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, and Connecticut. Sugar Land, one at the city here, built a beautiful ballpark. I mean, this rivals any minor league facility I've ever seen. Last year was the inaugural season. They drew 465,000. It was a great success with tremendous support from advertisers and sponsors. And the idea is to use Sugar Land as sort of the model for expansion of the Atlantic League into other markets here in the Southwest. And we've had a lot of interest from other communities throughout Texas, some in the Houston area, some in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, and others scattered throughout the state. We're getting inquiries from Louisiana and other cities here in the Southwest that would. So that's sort of my role to help Peter Kirk and the other owners of teams in the Atlantic League with the expansion process, and also to see if there are ways to even improve upon the product on the field. I think the caliber of baseball's pretty much like AAA, particularly with the position players, or I'd say AAA caliber. Pitching may be a little bit short of that, primarily because of the great dearth of pitching throughout baseball.
Talking with Tal Smith, longtime baseball executive, was president of the Houston Astros for many years, and now in consulting again, as he has been over the last, 2 or 3 decades, Tal, with your Tal Smith Enterprises company, talking about his work with the Sugarland Skeeters, a new Atlantic League team based in Sugarland, Texas, near Houston. Wanted to get your thoughts on a baseball headline made recently that's kind of an indicator of where things are in 2012, and that was the big blockbuster trade between Miami and Toronto involving, among many others, a former Lexington legend, John Buck, who went from the Marlins to the Blue Jays, as the Marlins seem to be cleaning house and ridding themselves of anybody who's making veteran-level money. What were your thoughts when you read about that?
Yeah, that's become very controversial and whatnot, but to some degree, I think it's been overplayed, probably because of the new stadium in stands in Miami and so on. But I think followers of the Marlins will recall this isn't the first time that they've had what is sometimes termed a fire sale. Mm-hmm. They frankly did this when Wayne Huizenga owned the club after their first championship, and quickly thereafter, because of the fact that he had spent a lot of money signing free agents and putting together a championship caliber club, and yet that the acceptance was not reflected in the attendance. He was very disappointed at that, and they quickly shed some of the bigger salaries. Moises Alou was one of the players at that time, because when the Astros were fortunate to acquire him in a trade for 3 minor leaguers, and those 3 minor leaguers really didn't work out for the Marlins. There's always risk when a major league club is trading an established player for so-called prospects. Everybody in the minor leagues was a prospect at one time. Obviously, the caliber of prospect then changes as they develop. Some continue to improve, and others go from being top prospects to marginal prospects, or eventually no prospects. So that's always difficult. The Marlins, even after their second championship, again shed salaries, and I think it's a case where the revenues are not meeting what the club put into it, and how this works out, we'll just have to wait and see. As I said, sometimes the prospects develop. Maybe you get a Jeff Bagwell out of it. In a lot of cases, like what happened to the Marlins with the Moises Alou, they didn't basically get much of a return on that. What they got from Toronto, there's a lot of quantity. We'll have to see how much quality. To a degree, the Astros are going through the same thing this year. They shed a lot of payroll over the years, starting with Roy Oswalt and Lance Berkman in 2010, and Hunter Pence and Michael Bourne in 2011, and Wandy Rodriguez and others this year, and they've accumulated a lot of minor league players. How that turns out, only time will tell. You get varying degrees of reports and evaluation.
Talking with Tal Smith, longtime baseball executive and consultant, and of course describing the current rebuilding phase of the Legends' former parent club, the Houston Astros. And you were involved in the original building phase of the Houston Astros back before they even became the Houston Colt 45s, starting your Major League Baseball career in about 1960. And of course the team didn't begin play until 1962 as the Houston Colt 45s. And at that time, expansion in baseball was a huge change, and really a first at that time, although the National League was 1 year behind the American League, I believe, in getting started on the field. But But what was that era like in actually building a major league team almost literally from scratch?
Oh, it was a fascinating experience. As you said, Keith, that was the first wave of expansion in the major leagues, and it was an unknown. There wasn't really any course or any chart to follow, and whatnot. And it was a real challenge, both from a marketing standpoint and from assembling a team. The players made available to the Mets and the Colt 45s at that time in the first expansion draft was not a very good caliber. Most of them were fading veterans with some name recognition. The Mets in particular were able to select a lot of players with familiar names, but unfortunately they were at the tag end of their careers and really couldn't perform very well at the major league level. In the Houston situation, we really tried to be very aggressive in our signing and procurement. That was in the days prior to the amateur draft, so there wasn't any restriction or limitation when you went out to compete for somebody's services. And we were very aggressive. We got Rusty Staub, was probably our biggest signing, and he went on to have a very distinguished major league career. And the Colt 45 still in those days for the first 3 years as they were known. We instead of going with a veteran club, tried to infuse a lot of younger players. Sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't. They were really challenged. Larry Durker, made his major league debut on his 18th birthday, I think, and whatnot. And as I said, some of them thrive and rise to the occasion, and others do not. It's very hard to evaluate 17, 18, 19, even 20-year-old players. They change from year to year. It depends how they handle adversity and so on. But those days back in the early '60s with the Houston franchise were very exciting. We were building the Astrodome, we were building a club on the field, and we were building a following with the fans in the Great Southwest.
And I want to ask you about the building of the Astrodome, and you were the club's liaison, really, on the construction of the Astrodome, which must be a terrific memory for you. But you did have to play 3 years before that, and as I recall, the Astros, or the Colt 45s at that time, played some Sunday night baseball, which was a real novelty in that era, but that was mainly to try to avoid the heat that would come in midsummer to Houston. But tell me a little bit about those first 3 years and the ballpark that the Colt 45s played in.
Yeah, there were a lot of changes that came about as a result of the experience here in Houston. They started playing in Colt Stadium, and then later on in the Astrodome, but particularly in Colt Stadium, which was built as a temporary facility right next to what the site or the location of the Astrodome was going to be, and it was clearly intended to just be a short-term usage and whatnot, so it didn't have the normal accoutrements that you get in ballparks. One of the box seats were actually folding chairs, and the grandstands were bleacher-type planks and so on. But it was a very colorful ballpark. One of Judge Hoffheinz, Roy Hoffheinz, one of the principal owners and the creator or the visionary of the Astrodome, was a real marketer, and he dressed up the ballpark. It had a lot of color, and had a lot of fun, but that didn't conquer or surmount the problems we had with the heat and humidity and the mosquitoes that were prevalent as it stands during the summer months, which basically run from March to November. So from that standpoint, it became so uncomfortable playing afternoon baseball here that we petitioned the league to play Sunday night baseball, and that was permitted, and that started something that obviously has carried forward in some cases.
Talking with Tal Smith, longtime baseball executive, and much of that 55-year career spent with the Legends' former parent club, the Houston Astros, and recently president of baseball operations with the Astros. And we've been talking a little bit about the early era of the Houston franchise, including the construction of the Astrodome. And We've talked a little bit about this before when you were caught up with the legends on some of the road trips, and we had a chance to talk. But that construction of the Astrodome and watching that come up at that time, it's really hard almost to overstate now what an impact that made, because the Astrodome really was so different from any other sports venue in history up to that time, and you were involved in the entire process. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's one of my great memories. That was a tremendous experience, and obviously it goes back now almost 50 years, and one that's hard for some people that didn't have the opportunity to see the Astrodome in its early days to really understand the impact that had on professional sports. I mean, this was so revolutionary. Baseball had never been played indoors. And then now dome stadiums throughout Major League Baseball and throughout the world are not unusual. But the Dome was a model. This was the first one. To provide an air-conditioned facility, which meant so much in Houston, and it also set the stage for multi-purpose stadiums. I mean, so some of the older ballparks, why not Yankee Stadium, Polo Grounds, places like that, they would accommodate baseball and football and maybe a boxing match, but that was pretty much it. So when we built the Astrodome, that was clearly planned and envisioned as a multi-purpose facility that would serve as a home not only for baseball and for football tenants, but also for conventions and trade shows and for entertainment as an entertainment venue. And we had so many different things: a Billy Graham crusade, theatrical performances, the rodeo, which is a big event here in Houston, runs for a couple of weeks. We had soccer, we had bloodless bullfights, we had all kinds of tractor pulls and motorcycle races and things like that, and it just created a whole new concept of what stadiums could present from a standpoint of entertainment to the community, and it just enabled us to do a lot of things. It was the first ballpark that had the luxury suites or skyboxes that are now commonplace even in minor league facilities. It was the first ballpark that had an elaborate stadium club. There were just so many new features that served as a model for other stadiums and for sports and entertainment in future years.
You had to deal with one issue very early in the history of the Astrodome, and that was the field. The growth of grass in the indoor facility proved to be a challenge, and you had to take care of something that would allow baseball to be played indoors.
Yeah, that was a challenge. I mean, in the building of the Astrodome, we didn't, there wasn't any model to go look at. This was the first. There had never been a domed stadium. Why not? From a standpoint of grass, the agronomists felt that was possible, and but furthermore, and this is just my own view that I'm expressing, I think we had to try grass. I mean, there were enough skeptics that were concerned about what's going to happen when you try to play baseball inside. Is it going to change the game, and so on? If we had suggested at that time that you would go to an artificial playing surface, whether it be AstroTurf or some other version of that, I think that would have really created an uproar. So as it stands, they had to try grass initially. And it might have survived except for the fact that the skylights, that was another consideration. And there wasn't any way to test this. There wasn't any place to go look at skylights and hit fungos and see what happens. So after the roof was in place and when it was tested, obviously during daylight hours, and particularly with a bright sky or bright sun, outfielders had difficulty picking up the flight of the baseball as it traveled from one panel through the solid roof decking to the next panel and so on. So to remedy that, obviously we had to have a quick solution, and that was to put another coat on the skylights. So that cured the so-called glare problem but it reduced the amount of natural light that the grass was receiving. And so after a while it began to die. And I think it was probably not only the reduction of light, but I also wonder about moisture. I mean, obviously you can you can water it indoors, but it's not quite the same, I don't think. Even today, stadiums will try to leave their roofs open when they can to get the natural sunlight and natural moisture and rain and so on. As it stands in this case, the grass was dying. We tried a number of things. We spray painted it to maintain the color, but there wasn't much texture there. And fortunately, I heard from a lot of people around the world that thought they had a solution, and one of them was a product that was being tested for playgrounds in urban communities. And this test was installed in Providence, Rhode Island, at a private school up there, the Moses Brown School, and I went up to take a look at that and was convinced that would present a good alternative, and obviously that was the start of what today is known as AstroTurf. And again, we served as a model, and AstroTurf became widely used in athletic fields throughout the country, not only major league ballparks, but high schools and colleges and playgrounds and so on. So that was another innovation that was really spurned or sparked rather by the construction of the Astrodome.
Talking with Tal Smith on Legends Inside Scoop, a baseball executive whose career spans more than 50 years, and much of that time with the Houston Astros. But you also spent a couple of seasons in the 70s as executive vice president of the New York Yankees, and that was an interesting period in Yankees history too. Tell me a little bit about that experience in New York.
Yeah, I've really been fortunate to be involved in the first expansion here in Houston, the construction of the Astrodome, and to work for the Yankees. To me, the most storied franchise in professional sports. And it was a great experience. The only thing I regret there is when I joined the Yankees, that's when Yankee Stadium was being renovated, and the Yankees during the year and a half that I actually spent with the Yankees, they played at Shea Stadium in 1974 and 75. So I missed the thrill of working at Yankee Stadium day in and day out. But and the Yankees, the pinstripes. Their great history and all the legends. It was a great experience, and I still cherish those years. There's just so much emphasis on the history and the tradition of the club, and that's always treated with great respect. And old timers games, the gathering of stands of former Yankees as they would reunite. That was always a marvelous experience to have the DiMaggios and the Fords and the Mantles and the Berras around. That was really special.
One of many awards you've received in your career was from Baseball America, a Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2005. Sometimes that Lifetime Achievement Award conjures up an image of someone whose career is over, but yours has continued, of course, on several years beyond that, and I know you're a man of high energy and still want to continue to do a lot of things. Tell me about what you're working on right now and what's ahead for you.
Well, I intend to stay active as long as I possibly can. Baseball has been my life. Started in the late stages of the 1957 season with the Cincinnati Reds, and it's not something that I want to walk away from or give up. And it's been my consuming interest from the time I was 7 years old. I've been fortunate enough to work for the Reds and the Astros. The Astros are Colt 45s on 4 different occasions, and the Yankees stand for a couple of years. I formed a consulting practice in 1981, and I still maintain that. And over the years, we've done work for 26 of the 30 major league clubs in one area or another, from executive search to operational reviews to contract negotiations, salary arbitration, I guess, probably got the most attention or most emphasis, and we presented over 150 cases over the years, and so on. But I really enjoy the association with people in baseball. I like doing different things. That's what encouraged me to take on this consulting assignment with the Atlantic League. That's something different from what I've done in the past, and that has been interesting. Again, an opportunity to meet different people and to relate to ball players that are trying to resurrect their careers and advance and whatnot. And I think that's been a very satisfying experience. We obviously had a lot of excitement and thrills in Sugar Land this year with the return of Roger Clemens, who pitched twice for the Skeeters and received worldwide attention for that. And I suspect that really helped put the Atlantic League and the city of Sugar Land and the Skeeters itself on the map. And obviously that's important as we continue to try to build upon what's been established here and expand this league into other regions and to provide more players with an opportunity to advance their careers. I suspect one of my ideas is that there's also an opportunity not only for the veteran player that plays in the Atlantic League, but perhaps for younger players of college age who have been bypassed or overlooked in the amateur draft and have not had an opportunity to perform in a major league system. Scouting is very well done, but players change, and that's the big thing. And sometimes a player in his college years when he's eligible for the draft may not have performed up to his normal levels for injury, weather considerations, or maybe he just improves. And there are players that once given the opportunity will capitalize and make the most of that. It's not an exact science, and whatnot. And I think if we provided opportunity to other players that want to continue their career and have not been drafted by major league clubs, I think that's a concept that is well worth pursuing.
Well, we wish you the best in your work with the Sugar Land Club and your other consulting projects as well. And it's good to know that you'll remain active in baseball. And we certainly appreciate your time today and being with us on Inside Scoop.
Keith, it's always nice visiting with you, and best of luck to you and the Legends in the 2013 season. I know a lot of changes, new affiliation, and a lot of exciting things going on. It's a great city, and I really enjoyed my visits there. So you take care, and my best to you, and a happy Thanksgiving.
All right, happy Thanksgiving to you too, Tal. Tal Smith has been with us on Inside Scoop, and we'll be right back.
You've been listening to the Lexington Legends Inside Scoop, an in-depth look at your Lexington Legends on ESPN Sports Radio 1300, WLXG AM Lexington. Tune in next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock for more inside information on the Lexington Legends with Keith Elkins. We now return you to our regularly scheduled ESPN Sports Radio 1300 programming.